We want to get started right away. So the first question I want to ask you, Johnny, is how does a nice Dominican boy like you, who was born in Santiago de los Caballeros, come to now represent one of the masters of Latin music? Not just merengue, not just for Latin music around the world.
Hard work.
How did you love this music? How did you embrace this music?
Well, I grew up, my father was a band leader in Santiago de los Caballeros. And when my mother used to listen to the radio, she used to listen to las novelas from Cuba. And once the novelas were finished, they used to have Arcaño y su Maravilla, Seteto Habanero, Conjunto... What was the other one? Anyway,
Conjunto Ideal, Aragon. You used to listen to this through a shortwave radio.
Yeah, I'm talking about in the 40s.
Right.
So that was the influence that I started to love the music.
Mm-hmm.
Pero I never left el típico merengue because I started playing accordion.
You played harmonica and you played accordion.
That was my first instrument.
Harmonica, right?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 7.
And your uncles, your father had a band called La Banda de San Cecilia, the patron saint.
Santa Cecilia, which is
Santa
the patron
Cecilia.
saint of
the patron saint of all the musicians, yes. And your uncles were in the band.
What happened with the harmonica, my father gave it to me. And in 2 days I was playing con Padre Pedro Juan.
CPJ.
Yeah, so he got all my brothers together. There were 5 of us. And he said, el que va a ser músico es este, ustedes son sordos todos. So from the beginning, we knew I was going to be the only musician in the family.
How old were you? About 11 when you came to New York?
I came to the Bronx in 1946. Let's hear it for the Bronx.
The Boogie Down Bronx. So you came to, when you were here in the Bronx, you started playing right away? With local, you were doing merengue?
No, when I started school at 11, I went to the music teacher, and the only thing they had left was a violin. So being that I wanted to play an instrument, I said, give me the violin. But my father played violin, so he taught me how to play violin. And then I graduated to clarinet and saxophone, which my father played. So I learned those 3 instruments, but what was very helpful is because I went into percussion, playing timbales, drums, and what have you. But I could read music. And the only 2 guys that could read music, and we used to do most of the recording, was myself and Ray Barreto.
Okay. So when you were in Santo Domingo, you were listening to Arsenio, and you were listening to Orquesta Ideal, Aragon, Chapotin. Then you come here, you're in a music school.
I started listening to Chapotin when I came to the States.
Oh, at the States,
yeah.
Okay.
I used to go with my father to the concerts that I did. I remember we used to play, I don't know if they used to do it in Puerto Rico, La Grioleta in the park. They used to have the municipal band play concerts every Sunday. So my father had a chair, and I used to sit next to my father. So when he was playing the clarinet, I used to go like this and turn the page, and I was only 10. Anybody said, that kid is a genius. The guy, he can read music and everything, he turns the page. But they didn't realize my father was going like this. Every time he gave me a little kick. Until one day he kicked so hard that the chair went flying. That was it.
Johnny, so did you first start playing professionally as a percussionist?
Yes.
You did. Who were your influences? Who did you listen to?
Well, the bands that were around was like Machito, Tito Rodriguez, Tito Puente, which I had the fortune of playing with. But I was very lucky. I've been very lucky my whole life, because the first time I played professional to make decent money was at the Palladium. To play the Palladium is like the top. And I went there to play with Damirón y Chapuzó, 2 Dominican individuals.
You were playing with them?
I was playing with them, and they had a tune called Anabacoa, which was a big hit. So they asked me to play tambora and conga. And that's
what you were playing in the Palladium?
I played with them, and then I used to do substitute for Vicentico Valdés and play like a sign man.
When did you start playing flute? Who gave you your first flute? Was it Gilberto Valdés? And is that where you met Mongo? Was that the first time you met Mongo? Because he was playing in his band.
It's amazing. Mongo was going to leave Gilberto Valdés. There was a place called El Tropicana in the Bronx.
El Tropicana in the Bronx?
Yeah, they used to have all the good bands there.
Yeah. Can you all hear him? Is the sound okay? No, they're having...
Can you hear me now?
Ahora sí.
Can you hear me now? It's funny that Mongo left Gilberto to go with Tito Puente, to start with Tito. And I came in to play with Gilberto Valdés timbales. And then in 1958, that was in 53. And in 1958, Mongo left to start his own group, and I came in with Ray Barreto. So I replaced Mongo twice.
So is that the first time you met Mongo?
Yes, at the Tropicana. Very nice man. We've been friends for years.
And then through Gilberto Valdez, you started playing flute?
Yes.
How did that happen?
He had a charanga, and I used to love the flute, but I couldn't get a flute, the 5 system. And he had an old flute, very antique, and he says, I'll give you this, but I can't give you lessons because I'm going to Cuba. So he gave me and I started by myself until 1955 that they started bringing Catalino Rolón, was a promoter at the Palladium, and he started bringing all the Cuban groups. Aragon, Fajardo, Orquesta América, Duarte, every group they had in Cuba, he brought it to the Palladium. And that's when I started learning certain positions that I didn't have.
Okay, so
From
and
Fajardo
that's when you... But you were still playing with the merengue groups? You played with Diores V?
Well, I went to Bronx Vocational and I started engineering. And I started looking for work, and the pays were ridiculous. They wanted to pay me $35 a week, 8 days.
As an engineer?
8 hours as an engineer, and I told them, I'm a brain. I can get you more money. So I worked my behind off. I'm sorry. I said, I couldn't find any work that I felt comfortable. And then I get a call that says, you play accordion? I said, yeah, we're going to have a merengue group at Villa Perez, and we'll give you $95 room and board for a weekend.
$95 for a weekend? That
was with room and board. So I was cleaning 90 because I used 5 for rum. And I went home, and I took all the tools, I put it in a box, and that was the end of my career as an engineer.
You were still at Bronx Vocational High School when you hooked up with Barry Rogers and Eddie Palmieri, and you guys formed like a mambo band?
It was the mambo band.
It was a mambo band.
Barry Rogers, it was the beginning. Eddie went to 51, and then he went, I don't know where he went after that, because he was a lousy student. But at Bronx Vocational, Barry Rogers and Gil Maldonado was the drummer. And he was a hell of a mechanic. He became a good mechanic as a drum player. We used to call it
Barry
the Mambo Band. And I was the lead. I played clarinet and saxophone.
Then you went to Brooklyn Tech, and then you went to Juilliard.
I went to Brooklyn Tech to continue with my engineering.
But then you gave that up.
I gave it up. The thing that happened is when I went there, they started like the stuff that I already have 2 years before. And I said, this is a waste of time. So I had a tutor, but I couldn't get any work that I thought was worthwhile.
So then you went to Juilliard.
I went to Juilliard with Luis Ramirez, Pete Terrace, and myself to take a course on percussion with one of the greatest teachers. His name was Mo Goldenberg. And when I left Juilliard, I used to go to I was playing the Chateau Madrid on 58th Street, the original. And I had to do Carmen Amaya. And that's one of the things that helped me was studying with Mo Goldenberg.
And you were playing over at the Chateau Madrid?
Yeah.
Then you started playing with Charlie Palmieri.
That was something else. We've been friends for years. We were good friends, and we decided to start a quintet. They opened up a club. There was a place called La Bamba. I don't know who remembers La Bamba. It was on Broadway, right next to Berlin. And they changed it to Jack Silverman International to compete with the Latin Quarters. At that time, I was playing flute, so we got a group together. It started a quintet in the Catskills. And then when we came back, we added the flute. And we did like a little charanga. But that was 1955, 56.
And that was before you got involved with Charlie Palmieri?
No, that was with Charlie.
That was with Charlie.
And then from there, we started Orquesta du Monet. And in 1959, we split because he had an idea of the charanga, the sound that he wanted, and I had my own idea. Like, for instance, I did Acuyuye, Suavito, which was different from the Cuban stuff.
How was it different?
It was more commercial. And I gave it like a different flavor.
When you say more commercial, do you mean more danceable? The arrangements were a little faster?
It was just like a little gimmick, like Suavito was boom, 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 boom. It was like a slow calypso. And it was a big hit for me. And then Acuyuye was completely different because it was more like a catering to the African beat. But then I used to play like El Bodeguero, all the standard stuff. But I used to write most of my stuff at Guido Macorina, Oyeme Mulata, you name it, I wrote them all.
So you and Charlie had creative differences. You went on your own, started your own band.
But we broke up friendly because
right.
We said whoever wants to go with Charlie, you can go, and whoever wants to stay with Johnny. And Charlie didn't have enough music, so I gave him half of my repertoire, so he can, you know, until he started writing. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that did it, because we were going to split the book. So he was going to do half of the arrangement, I was going to do the other half. And when we started rehearsing, I had 7 arrangements, he only had 1. Mm-hmm. Then the second time we rehearsed, I had 14, and he only had 2. And I said, Charlie, please, man, work. And we wound up that I was doing most of the writing. Mm. And it was supposed to be Orquesta du Bola, no name. Mm-hmm. But then he put his name on the Charlie Palmieri, and I said, that's not the deal. It should be just the name of the band. Like Orquesta Aragon, they don't know who's the leader. Mm-hmm. But we were very good friends. Mm-hmm. You know what's funny about Charlie Palmieri? He did something that was very unique. To play with Charlie Palmieri, he didn't give a damn how you play, it's how you drank. If you can hold your liquor, you can play with Charlie. And what we used to drink was Bacardi with Gallo wine.
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Dios mío, perdóname.
And then
most of the guys die without a liver. Mm-hmm.
Then when you started your own band, you signed with Alegre Records, Al Santiago. Tell me how that happened. I knew Al, he was a friend, and you had a big hit with that first record.
Well,
you sold 100,000.
Let me tell you what happened. I went into the studio, I wrote Oyeme Mulata y El Guido de Macorina. And with the help of Luis Ramirez, we went into the studio, and I recorded a demo. And I went around all the companies, record companies, and they all said, that stinks. That's a piece of crap. You're not going anywhere with this. I started to cry. I was so broken up that I was ready to give up. But it happens that Radio Waldo had a disc jockey called Rafael Font. And he used to play all Aragon, Fajardo, all the Cuban stuff. And on a Friday I went over and I said, I want you to listen to this. And he played it, and he said, this is great. So he played it about 3 times or 4 times that Friday night. Saturday morning, everybody was looking for the record. It was already a hit. But I was dying to get a contract, and Sunday we were playing at the Tritons. And Al Santiago came in with a contract. I was so hungry, I signed anything. So I signed, but he already had a hit. And that was the first album I did, Pacheco y su Charanga.
And it was a tremendous hit for Al Santiago, and you 100,000 sold.
He made so much money, he went crazy.
Well, I heard that he got you a Mercedes or some car he bought you as a bonus.
No, he introduced me to Mercedes.
Oh, that's Al Santiago.
That's the reason I left the company, because they wanted me to ask for my money that was due to me, my royalties. Mm-hmm. And I don't like to ask for money. If it's owed to me, give it to me. Mm-hmm. And then he started going bananas with spending a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And then he went to Puerto Rico to buy a radio station, and he wanted to borrow $1 million. And they told him, yeah, you can get $1 million. When he went back, he thought it was easy. And they said, we can't give it to you. And he already invested like $750,000, and that was 1961. Mm-hmm. And he went under.
He went under. Yeah. But in the meanwhile, you started the pachanga craze.
But then I bought the company. I told him, one of these days, this company is going to be mine. And God, I prayed to God that I did get it. I bought it from him when I started Fania.
Yep. Yeah, it was a prophetic statement.
I started the craze of pachanga. I used to do a step when I was playing with the band. And there was like, I remember Margie Puente used to do it. All the girls used to go like this and do the little hop. I can't do it now because I'm on vacation. And it became a craze because all you had to do was go like this, and anybody can jump up and down. And it was terrific. But what happened was, when I opened the Palladium, everybody had 2,000 people going like this. the ceiling fell down, and there was a car dealer and a drugstore. All the medication went on the floor, and they had to put steel beams in order for me to come in with the pachanga.
And that was at the Palladium?
At the Palladium, the Medicina del Destructor.
Now tell me, what was the difference between playing at the Palladium and playing at the Tritons?
One of the things that I want to clarify is the word pachanga has been around, but when I was writing, I took the word charanga y Pacheco, and I came up with pachanga. So if it was, the word was there before, it was an accident.
Oh, okay.
I want to clarify that.
Okay, you coined it. We've heard it here
jury.
first. Pacheco coined pachanga.
The Triton was a club that was on Southern Boulevard, which was where I first started. And the word got around so all over New York that we had people coming in the limousine. I remember I met Helen Rubenstein, the daughter. She used to do the pachanga there. Porfirio Rubirosa.
Mm-hmm.
I was, getting there.
Mm-hmm.
I was very lucky.
Mm.
Let me tell you, I consider myself one of the luckiest guys in the world when it comes to music, because I wanted to have my own band, and I did it with the charanga. Then I went into the World's Fair with a conjunto, and I wanted to start my record company. I did it with Fania Records. And then I wanted to have the best orchestra ever, getting all the best musicians, putting them together, and I did the Fania All-Stars. Now I don't know what the hell I'm going to do next.
But getting back to that whole pachanga craze, that you were at the forefront of that. I have some questions that I'm asking you.
No, pues tú estás viendo para abajo.
Sí, porque estoy recordándome, porque si no me olvido también.
Yo quería que estaba viendo el número de la bolita.
But what I need to ask you is, did they have, with the charangas, was there a rivalry going on between you? Let's say there was Pete Terrace, Pete Rodriguez, Palmieri, Roberto had a charanga band.
Well,
was there a rivalry going on?
Let me clarify this. There was Silvestre su charanga, Pete Terry su charanga, and they were not charanga. The charanga consists of violins, flute, timbales, guiro, and the voice in unison,
right.
conga. Charlie had it, Barreto had it, I had it. There was about 4 guys. And everybody added a flute, and they called it charanga. But it wasn't actually a charanga. But one of the things that happened was, there was a club called Club Caravana. I don't know if you remember, in the Bronx. Yes! You heard the magic word.
Sorry.
And there was a promoter named Federico Pagani. He was a genius. He used to come up with yes, another yes. And we started something. It was 4 por 1, 4 bands for $1. So we used to get 4 bands, but we charged $1 from 7 to 8. After that, it was $9, $10, and people used to pay $20 at 12 o'clock because the place was jam-packed. So what happened was that all the clubs started imitating the Caravana. So all the bands, there was not enough bands to play around New York. So I got everybody working, doubling all over the place. We used to meet in the street. Where are you going to? The Caravana? How is it? Fine, it's swinging. And all the bands were working then. The 60s, because of myself and Federico Pagani, inventor.
Federico Pagani helped to get the word out to a lot of the people out there about the bands, what was going on, charanga, and especially with your group.
Well, that was the hottest thing going.
Yep, that was the hottest thing going.
You know what we did? That people would go in to see Pacheco su charanga, and even if you can't dance, we used to put on a show. We dance on the stage, we have movement going, and we had like a little segment with comedy. And people enjoy that. Now that you didn't have to dance, you can enjoy the band.
Now, at that time, though, you also played percussion with people on shows like...
That tastes like gin?
Huh?
Or
No.
is it my imagination?
No, I don't think it tastes like gin, but... That's the residual taste buds. But anyway, you also play on shows like the Steve Allen Show. You play with Johnny Carson.
It's funny, you know, mentioning that. I started the other way around. I started with the Americans, and then I went to the Latinos. Because I used to do the Tonight Show. I used to record with Quincy Jones.
Yep.
Thad Jones, Woody. One time, as a matter of fact, I was called to work with Woody Herman. And my brother used to love big bands. So here I walk in, and there's Woody Herman. And I said, let me call my brother. And I said, Joe, you won't believe who I'm recording with. He said, who? I said, Woody Herman. He said, you're full of shit. Hung up on me. He didn't believe me. And then, like a schmuck, I didn't take a picture with him.
But you didn't need to take a picture with him. Everybody knows. I mean, you recorded with all these, with the masters, and you also recorded with Javier Cugat, with Pérez Prado. I
recorded with Pérez Prado, and I worked with Pérez Prado. Then I started with Tito Puente in '58. And towards the middle of '58, I started with Xavier Cugat. And from Cugat, then I started my own band. I used to love Pérez Prado, but he was so cheap. My God. Era así. We used to go into places, people used to applaud. He said, don't applaud, throw money.
How did that come about? How did you get to play with like a Johnny Carson, Dick Cavett? How did you get there? Were you recommended or?
Being that I was a percussionist, I taught some of the guys how to play bongos and conga, including Bob Rosengarten. And he was the one that introduced me to the band leaders like Skitch Henderson, Milton DeLug. There was a guy called Jose Melis, had a lot of teeth. He looked like a keyboard. But I was very lucky until like I wanted to do my own thing, and that's when I started with the pachanga.
Okay, and you also made your own cowbell, and you had that distinctive Pacheco sound.
Believe it or not, there's a guy that's making millions, and I told him what to do, and he hasn't given me a cent. His name is Maricon.
Oh, you heard it here, guys. You heard it here.
It's there. Maricon.
I know. You heard it here, everybody. But you were making cowbells. You were making cowbells. You were doing that.
You know, he's got a brother named Safa. Safacon. You know what he wanted? He wanted me to, I had the Pacheco bells. But the trick was like he wanted to copy the bell. He never got the right sound. But I used to get a special medal that I'm not going to say it.
It was from airplanes. But you won't tell me what airplane.
You're a spy.
You won't tell me what airplane. That's why they got me to do this gig.
You ever see Fantasy Island?
Yeah.
When he said the plane, the plane.
That's the plane?
That's the plane. No, it had such a beautiful ring to it. And I used to sell them at $6 a pop.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was your sideline.
And then I designed bongos. I used to make conga drums, the keys and everything.
And this is all while you were playing?
Yeah.
While you were doing it?
I used to work at night playing, and then I used to do the drums during the day.
So you rode out the whole pachanga craze, but then you had this pioneering musical approach. You switched charanga, you switched from violin and flute to the conjunto sound, the Cuban conjunto sound. And
again, I was very lucky.
Explain that.
By the end of 63, all the Cuban violin players, the guys that could play charanga, wanted to start playing classical. They couldn't play classical music. First of all, the violin was like a piece of box with strings. And they left New York and they all went to Washington. And I tried to get American guys to play son montuno. The music is so simple, but yet it's so hard. They couldn't get into it. They couldn't find a downbeat. And I was getting very discouraged until I got a call to open up the 1964 World Series.
World's Fair.
Well, I mean the World's Fair.
In the World's Fair, yeah, 1964.
You know who played with me? This is funny.
Joe Cuba.
Joe Cuba used to do 5 days, and then I came in the theater.
You guys used to alternate at the World's Fair.
But I had Cachao.
Cachao?
Yeah, I was paying those guys $350, Plus, we did other gigs on Friday and Saturday, so it came up to about $450. And $450 in those days was a lot of money.
Yeah,
So
I want to play with your
went to get an
band.
apartment, and he says, the guy asked him, where are you working at? He said, at the welfare. He said, you can't come in here. He said, no, I got the money. He said, well, where do you work? He said, welfare. So finally he called me, and I got him the apartment. I had a good band.
But before you left Charlie's band, you were involved again with the Alegre All-Stars and all that. Now, I read an article one time. You tell me if this is true. Max Salazar wrote an article that the reason you left the Alegre All-Stars was because they made Charlie Palmieri the musical director. So you left and you were mad. Was that true or not? Tell me what happened.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just Al Santiago started doing crazy things. Like one time I remember he took a Greyhound bus. He went all over New York City to all the clubs. Musicians are nuts. They got in the bus. He must have had about 50 musicians. He took them to the studio. No instrument. He said, we're going to do voices. And he had all 50 guys going, doo, 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 doo. And I walked in. He was like a maniac. And those guys were following whatever he was doing. And then there was no more that togetherness that we had with the Allegro All-Stars, the company. And then I ran into a lawyer, Jerry Masucci.
And he was already your lawyer, right?
He was a lawyer, and I was a band leader. So we had
and he had gone to Cuba, so he knew the music. He was your fan.
He went to see me in a place called El Ariete. And I told him I want to start a company. He says, I don't know anything about the record business. I said, I'll teach you. You take care of the paperwork, and I'll take care of the studio. Little did I know that I was going to get screwed with the paperwork.
Well, you let a lawyer take care of the paperwork. But anyway,
I should have had a lawyer.
Who came up with the name Fania?
I did.
And where did that come from?
There was one tune called Fania Funche.
Right, you did that tune.
Yeah, I did that tune, and they told me there was a group of individuals that they were very together, Negroides, and they had it was like a family. And I said, this is what I want, so I put Fania. And everybody thought Fania was
your girlfriend?
No, Jerry's daughter.
Oh, Jerry's daughter.
And they thought I was married to her.
Oh.
I didn't want to get into that family.
No, but because you had
So what we did was, I did the first album was Cañonazo in 1964. And the number of the album was 325. Everybody said, why did you, usually you start 0001, 00002. I started 325, and they asked me, and it's because I did it March 25th, which is my birthday. I recorded on my birthday.
So Johnny's got a birthday coming up. Now you all know, March 25th.
Did you hear that? What did you just say?
Johnny has a birthday coming up.
I'll have a truck for the gifts.
But his birthday is March 25th, and the first record on Fania, the numeration, the catalog number is 325. Not 001, 325, because of his birthday.
I just said that.
I know, I want to remind them. I'm being stereophonic for you.
So what we did was, whatever money came in, we put it right back into the business. And I did the first 3 albums. And as a matter of fact, the album 328 to me is a gem. That's the seed that I planted that became the Fania All-Stars. It's called Latin Jam. I recommend that highly. And as a matter of fact, I think I have the recording that was done years ago of Dos Gardenias. Now they have the Buena Vista Social Club. They think that's something new. But to me, that's the best recording done, the one I did, not to put a feather in my cap. But it's so good, I bought it myself.
How did you, those first initial records, how did you operate? You didn't have an office. You guys were riding around in your car. Tell me a little bit about that.
I had a Mercedes, a 180 Mercedes, and we used to put all the records in the trunk. The car was like this. And then we used to go to the record shops. I used to deliver records on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and Jerry used to do Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I remember going down to the 42nd Street, the record mart, downstairs to make a delivery. It was cold like hell, and my nose was running. And one guy said, look where Pacheco lined up. He's making deliveries. I feel And he took out a dollar bill and gave it to me. And I took it.
So those were fun times, huh?
Yeah, then I started looking, looking when we got money together, started looking for talent. And the first guys were like Bobby Valentin, Larry Harlow, Willie Colon, and we started building up the company. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I liked about it, that we treated everybody like a family. They got paid royalties, they got paid for recording, and then it became there was so much harmony in the company that if you needed somebody to work, like Rubén Blades would come in and sing coro for me, or Roberto Torre, there was never any jealousy, which was a beautiful thing to have.
So you became the musical director of the Fania All-Stars.
Yeah, we put it together. It was funny, they called us because a lot of people think that writing music is like writing a letter. You sit down and say, querido amigo, te veo mañana comiendo cable. And they told us, we're going to do we were planning this. And then Symphony came up with an idea, let's do it at the Cheetah Thursday. And he told me this Tuesday. I said, where's the music? He said, no, you can write it. I said, what? So we went up to, there was a Howard Johnson. I went with Bobby Valentin. And I was just writing, and he was doing the arrangement. We were going back and forth. Mm-hmm. And I remember one thing that happened. We went to, there was a restaurant called El Asia.
La Asia número uno.
Número uno.
55th and 8th. Right around the corner from New York.
That?
Yeah.
I'm getting hungry.
I love the black beans.
We went to have lunch there, and when we were coming out, we got stuck in the door, and I said, bueno, muévete tú, me pongo yo. And I went, quítate tú
pa ponerme yo.
That's where we got it.
See, and I was going to ask you that question. Now you one-up me. How did quítate tú pa ponerme yo start? At the Asia.
I just wrote another one that I'm going to start recording next week, which is about this. I wrote Número 100 de Tito Puente. And now I wrote a Número 100 for Bobby Cruz and Richie Ray. Now I'm going to write my own, quítate tú, y dice, busca tu puesto si quieres tú cantar. Si quieres tú cantar. Oh my God, went blank.
Technical difficulty here.
I should be singing this because you're going to tape this. They might steal the song of me. But it's the thing that I'm going to do, like guys are going to do inspiration. And I'm planning to get like all my friends, Roberto Santa Rosa, you name it, Cheo Feliciano. They're not going to refuse me. What do you think?
You've written over 150 tunes. People have played your tunes for yourself. I mean, you're very prolific as a writer of songs. How do you get an idea for a song? How do you develop that?
Things that happen in the street that you see. Like, for instance, I just wrote a tune que se llama La Mujer de Mi Vecino.
Uh-oh.
Dice, mi vecino tiene una mujer muy fea, pero requete fea, porque la tipa está puñetera. She is ugly. Mm-hmm. But he's not going to know that I wrote it for her. Mm-hmm. And that's how I get the ideas.
Oh.
It's amazing, 150 tunes. You know what bothered me? That until like the 80s, nobody recognized me as a composer. Because in the beginning, they used to put, like for instance, the radio stations, the disc jockey used to say, we're going to play El Guiro de Macorina by Johnny Pacheco singing so-and-so. They used to give you all the details. Now they just play and they don't even announce the damn thing. So you don't know who the hell is on the record, which I think is bad. And before, they didn't even get credit behind the albums for the musicians, which has been done now since we had the company.
But I have a burning question I've always wanted to ask you. When you took the Fania All-Stars to Africa on that first trip, Leon Gass did a documentary later that I saw called...
That was my movie.
When they were kings.
Oh, yeah, that was with the Bahamas.
Right, and there was a clip in there where I saw Celia, I saw Roberto, Rowena dancing. Was that the first time that you had gone to Africa with the Fania All-Stars?
That was the first time in
That was the
Zaire.
first time.
You know, there's a funny thing that happened in that trip. There was a plane load of entertainers. The Sister Sledge, the Spinners.
The Temptations, I think.
Temptations, the Fania All-Star, and James Brown.
James Brown.
So
Yeah.
when we landed in Africa, he was dying for the door to open. And there were about 10,000 people, and they had a big band and the tribe and the whole thing. And they go, and he comes out, he goes, my peoples, my peoples, my peoples. And they ran over him, and then they got in front of me, they went, Pacheco, Pacheco. Because I've been to Africa about 10 times.
Yeah, and every time you go back to Africa, because I speak a lot to Luisito Rodriguez, says the people greet you there, Pacheco, Pacheco. They know your music.
They love the music there.
Yeah.
They love guajiras, son montuno. And as a matter of fact, there's a couple of singers that I ran into. One sings like Benny Moré, and the other one sings like Tito Rodriguez. I remember he did cara de payaso, cosa de payaso. Exactly like Tito, and I went over to him and said, oye, me chévere. He said, he couldn't speak a word of English or Spanish, but he was a great singer. Africa is the motherland.
You also made a name for yourself everywhere as this great producer for Fania. You were the producer, and you put together these combinations of people and albums that were all winners, all sellers, all successful.
Well, what happened was after I trained them to work in the studio, then I left them alone because I was working like 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. I was going home just to change clothes. My kids said, who the hell is that? The only guy I knew was a milkman and a garbage guy. I used to get home at 5 o'clock in the morning and then dress and go to the studio, starting at 10. But I trained all the guys, and then I left like Willie Colon, Bobby Valentin, Barrero started doing those things, Larry Harlow.
But I want to ask you about the cult classic Quimbara with Celia Cruz. How did that come about?
It was a miracle.
A miracle?
Yeah, we had an office in Puerto Rico, La Calle Sierra. And this guy come over to me, he says, Señor Pacheco, I got some tunes that I wrote, I want you to listen to them. I got a meeting right now. There was a little coffee shop. I said, well, have some coffee, a sandwich, and I'll see you when I finish. Mm-hmm. We were like for 3 hours in the meeting and just plain forgot. So I'm walking out, and he goes like this, Pacheco? I go, yeah? He said, yo le dije que quería. I go, oh, I'm sorry. Come on, let me hear something. He says, Quimbara, 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 Quimbara. I go, come on. I brought him upstairs, and he started singing. His name was Junior Cepeda.
Junior Cepeda?
Yeah. And unfortunately, he came to New York, and he got involved with a lady, and he got shot in the head. She shot him twice. And he was only 22. What a shame.
Was he from Puerto Rico?
From Puerto Rico.
Mm. Would he have been part of the Cepeda family? Do you know?
Could be, because they're all musically inclined.
Yeah, yeah. But then the combination with Celia. Celia was signed to Fania. She had done these albums with Tito Puente. They didn't do too well, but then she did the concert with Larry Harlow, Omi. And when she did that concert, it was like everybody saw Celia again.
I think the Quimbara was the one that put her in the map. Cucala, those 5 albums that we did. To me, it was a dream come true because since I was young, I loved the way she sang, and I said, maybe someday, God, I would love to record with this lady. And the whole trick of recording Celia is she can sing with a guy playing a tin can or whatever, because she's amazing. So what I did was just a backup band.
But she requested.
She requested
that when she was signed, she requested to be backed up by you because you had that Sonora Matancera feel.
Yeah, I had I started like a Sonora thing, and then I had the influence of Chapotín. That's why I put the tres. So I came up with the Pacheco y su tumbao sound. But once I recorded with Celia that I knew we were going to record and that we did the first album, I wrote a tune called La Dicha Mía, which is a story of Celia.
That's the story of Celia?
Yeah, she loves that song.
La Dicha Mía.
And then being Dominican, I wrote all the merengues that she recorded.
But you recorded all kinds of things. You recorded, even with Celia, bombas. You recorded merengues and cumbias, salsa. You recorded all over.
There's a big market.
Did you have a formula? That's what I want to know. What happened in the studio? When you produced, did you have a formula?
That's what I want to call my album, con la misma fórmula. I've been working with the same formula. It's going to be 50 years that I've been in the music. I'm going to celebrate it this year. I started in 53.
Wow, 50 years in the music.
Thank you.
What was a day in the studio like with you? What was your approach?
First of all, when you walked in, I had all the guys there. I'm very serious about my stuff. But the first thing I did was tell a joke. And everybody would laugh if it was funny. And all of a sudden everybody, I still do that on the stage. Before we play, I always make a remark and the guys will start smiling and that transfers into the music.
You're always making jokes. I remember in La Asia, jokes used to make. Oh, you made a bad one about Harriet one time. I remember, but I won't say it here.
La coja.
You made a bad. I'll tell you later. It was a bad joke, but you.
Is that the one that que le daban un tipo le fue a robar?
No, that's not the one.
Who doesn't speak English here?
No, they all speak English.
Oh, who doesn't speak Spanish? Está jodida la cosa entonces. No, you lose in the translations. That I told a guy went to do a hold up. He said, "Give me the bag," and he went in the bag. He couldn't find anything. He says, "I know where you put your money when you're Brazil." So he stuck his hand in there. He couldn't find anything. He said, "If you don't have it there, you got to have it down in the bottom." So he stuck his hand there. Couldn't find anything. And he's pulling the hand out. She said, "If you leave the hand there, I'll write you a check." My lady. Un chequecito.
But let's go back to the studio,
It
Johnny.
didn't lose that much, right?
Johnny, let's go back to the studio. What was your approach? You'd say a joke?
First of all, when you go into the studio, you got to get the right people because you got to have the right combination. There's no favoritism. I don't believe in that. And what you got to do in the studio is you got to have a marriage. For instance, the bass and the piano on the tres, that's a family right there. And you can't overplay because the combination of the two playing at the same time has got to be different things. And then it will weave into a nice sound. The same thing with the horns. When you're going to play, you got to listen to the guy next to you. Don't just blow the notes. And then there's what they call accidentals, little things that don't mean anything, like you tie the note, instead of going pa-da-da-da-da, you go pa-pa-da-da-da, and you give a color. There's little things in the music that you think that they don't mean anything, but they do when you put it together. That's why when we did Celia, the sound of the trumpets, it was different, the triple tonguing. And then Richard Ray got it from me. And then all of a sudden, South America had everybody doing that.
But did you start out with an idea, like before you went into the studio, would you have like kind of an idea of what you wanted? Did you come up with the name of the album? Did that come last?
No, that comes last.
Did you, I mean, I know you put the...
Now that you say that, a lot of people make mistakes. They go like this, they record 12 tunes. And they say, this is going to be a hit. And they named the album with that tune. If the tune doesn't sell, the album is dead. So you never name it after a tune that you recorded. put anything else but one of the titles. That's my advice. You look like a record producer. Shifty. So before I went into the studio, I used to sit down, spread all the music, check the arrangement, make sure everything is in order, the repeats, the whatever, and then check the lyrics. Because when you go into a studio, one of the worst things you can do is sing while you're reading. You can tell that there's no expression. You have to memorize it in order to play with it. And the other factor is try to interpret in your mind what the composer is trying to say with those lyrics and get it out there. Very important. Little details.
How did you pair people together? I mean, you had Los Compadres, you had so many winning combinations. Did you think of this beforehand? How did you do that?
I did it with talent and personalities. I used to get guys that didn't like each other. I used to get them in the studio and they say, we're going to do each other up. And they used to come out positive. Like Justo Betancourt, who the hell did I team with Larry Harlow?
Oh, God.
Two different personalities.
Totally.
Larry. Huh? Oh, yeah, that was another combination. Celia con Papo y Justo. And then we did Celia with Willie Colon. We just to get a... You know what happened? It's funny that after I did the 4 albums with Celia, she recorded with Willie Colon. And one of the hits was Usted Abusó.
So, the Brazilian tune.
So I started getting calls in the house and said, what the hell did you do to that woman? And I said, what the hell's going on? They said, yo estaba abusando de ella. You didn't pay her or what?
But that's something else. You launched the careers of many people. Who, in your career, who are your favorites? Who are you most proud of?
All of them.
All of them?
All
There's
of them.
not one person that stands out?
It's like I'm a jeweler and I took a rough diamond and I just polished them. They had the talent. All you had to do was just get them out there. The phrasing, the singing. But thank God I got along with everybody. I still do. I'm a nice guy.
Will you pay?
Thank you.
You paved the way for people like the Buena Vista Social Club, involved with the movies you were involved in, like Arlantín and Salsa.
That was one of the greatest movies I ever did, to do the cheetah and film it, which I'm going to release again. And then what happened was when the Fania became known, the whites had their music, the black had Motown, and then Latino didn't have anything, and here comes Fania.
Fania was our Motown.
That was
Fania,
it.
Yeah.
They identify with that. And to prove, when we did Yankee Stadium, everybody said, that's going to be a flop, you got to be nuts. And we put 45,000 people in Yankee Stadium.
Yep.
Thanks to you.
Johnny,
That's why I wrote, because of the situation, I wrote Mi Gente.
Because of that?
Yeah. Mi Gente, usted, because I knew we were going to pack them in.
Were you scared when you saw people going into the field and coming to the stage? How did you react?
I didn't know they were coming. My back, I was conducting.
You were directing, but they didn't...
And the guy's going like this. Being that we're in Yankee Stadium, I think it's safe. And they said, look back there. When I saw that, Jesus Christ, scared the hell out of me.
What was your reaction when you saw those people coming at you?
I knew it was going to happen.
You knew it?
Yeah, because Latinos, when they hit the drums, is in the blood. And when they did the Congo Bongo with Mongo Santa Maria and Barreto, I said, they're going to come down. That was it, but it was scary.
It was scary. It was scary, I know.
We never finished the show.
No, I know. Alex
As a matter of fact,
was...
there was a guy running with a trombone. I thought it was stealing the trombone from Willie Colon. And I tackled him, and it was Willie. Oh, embarrassing.
But you also wrote the score for the movie Something Wild with David Byrne, the Talking Heads at that time.
He's a hell of a guy.
David Byrne.
As a matter of fact, I just got a check yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yes, I love that guy. You know, I don't know how many of you have, if anybody has that album, but I did something that was very unique. He wrote it, he writes weird stuff. And he's like two different persons, but they both on Mr. High. You talk to him, he's like very humble and quiet, and stage is like amazing. So he wrote a film, it was a melody,